actually turn this over. One of our ALC members and a longtime fan of yours, Mike DeReamer, is chomping at the bit to be our host for this segment today. So I'm going to turn it over to Mike. I'm going to keep an eye on the chat box, but I'm going to let him lead this conversation.
Cool. Mike, Mutual Admiration Society, commence. How are you, sir?
Good to see you again, Jason. Mr. Scoring the Deal himself.
There it is.
Yes. Well, hey, everybody, I had the amazing opportunity to see Jason and Brian Grubernick present our ESO training, expansion systems, this past January. I went there with Matt, and I think my follow-up to that, after the excitement kind of waned a little bit, I told Matt, anytime those guys are talking, I'm in. Like, you just let me know the next event. I think potentially that enthusiastic reaction, some might call it a little bit of fanboyism, definitely led me to be nominated for this here event. So anyway, Jason, I know we have limited time, and I don't even want to try to put a price tag on what your time is. So before we get started, if there's any one topic or discussion point that you definitely want to touch on, I just want to leave it open to you so that you can direct the conversation if you see so fit.
Okay. If anything comes to mind, I'll take over.
Well played, sir. So coming right off of Mega Camp, just this past week, what was your favorite part or your top takeaway from this year's very uniquely formatted Mega Camp?
That's a great question. Well, number one, that the play button worked. I was really happy about that. Technology is not always as reliable as we'd all like it to be. We know that. We're really focused on that. And so I was thrilled. It's one thing to have 5,000 of your closest friends. It's another thing to have 40,000. And it all worked. So that was great. I guess my biggest takeaway was kind of this marriage that I see happening right now between real estate agents and technology. And for the longest time, I think a lot of folks thought it was going to be a full-on war. Like, people were going to swipe right to buy a house and we were all going to be unemployed. And I was worried about that, mainly because all the technologies were being created by people who had never been real estate agents. I tell the story all the time that, like, I went to an Inman event and I was getting an award for most innovative. We were really innovative. We do open houses, so, cutting edge stuff. And I went there, and then before they gave the award, they had all these technologists on stage talking about the future of residential real estate. Average age was like 11, and none of them had ever been a realtor. And here they were lecturing us on the future of real estate, and it really pissed me right off. And that's kind of when I decided to join this battle to empower realtors as opposed to taking their power away. Because I fundamentally believe people do business with people they like. And I don't think there's an algorithm to get around that. And at this mega camp, I finally saw what you all have been building for 5 years, which is a concept. It's nothing more than a concept. And the concept is that the only thing technology should do is magnify the superpower of the real estate agent. Whatever your superpower is, and every one of you have one, the technology is supposed to open that up to more people. Meaning, you all have the right to free speech. You can walk outside today and yell anything you want, but you don't have the right to be heard by the masses. That's the privilege. And that privilege comes with building the platform. And it's been a giant pain to build it. And I mean, like, that weighs really heavy on me because my mission in life is to make every one of your days better. And I know there are some days where you log in and something isn't working, and I've literally ruined it. I've made you less effective in that moment. And I lay awake at night and I think about that. And I know it's been hard, but you're finally seeing that dream come into focus. And it's a dream that very few other real estate companies have imagined. This idea that we can have an amazing amount of data, then from that data have insights, and then from those insights create business habits that give you an unfair advantage in your marketplace. It's finally being realized. And I thought you had this amazing moment where you had, Josh and I talking about data and insights from Google and Facebook. Then you had real estate agents talking about the habits they had put into place to capitalize on them. Then you had Inman sitting with Josh talking about the humanity coming back into the technology. And I was really moved by the whole thing. I know that sounds all really geeky, but I was really moved by it because I really believed that these third-party technology companies that want to displace real estate agents posed an existential threat to my livelihood. And I don't have a plan B. Like some of y'all do. Like you're brilliant and you're smart. And I'm a guy with a 1.8 GPA, like in high school, and that was it. And then I just got a real estate license because it only took 5 days, and you could get a C- on that test, and then they give you the anyway. So can't be a lawyer or a doctor. I don't have those skills. And so the idea that this thing of ours could go away, like I don't know how to face that. This is how I pay for family vacations. This is how I'm hoping to put a kid through school. This is my life's mission. And so could I do a plan B like modeling? Probably. But it wouldn't be my first choice. And to now see that y'all have stepped up to protect the industry like you have, it was really moving for me.
The humility in you diminishing your skill set is not lost on me.
I
Appreciate that. And I appreciate the passion that comes through when Gary, when Josh, when you talk about the things you're developing for us. It's pretty impressive to experience that. In and around technology, being the VP of industry, with your involvement in labs and your proximity to all the new developments in KW, our systems, command, et cetera, what's the next thing coming that you're most excited about?
I kind of break that into 3 different categories. I guess on the agent front, I'm most excited about the fact that our user base is now the largest that the world's ever conceived in terms of residential real estate. That's exciting for me in a couple of different ways. Everyone said we wouldn't get people to use it. We do what KW does, which is everybody showed up and uses it, which then leads to cohort number 2, which is now it has to be really reliable. And the more people you have using something, the harder it is to scale that. I'm really hyper focused on that. Waking up and making people's days better as opposed to waking up and making people's days harder. It really is weighing on me and everybody here. And I'm not going to hide under my desk from that conversation. I'm going to take full responsibility for it. And we got to do that. And then number 3, really exploring what the consumer wants and then going deeper on that journey. You know, we created the agent operating system in Command. Then you all conceived of a consumer operating system, which you built in the app. And now we have built out and we just unveiled the leadership center for that, which now Command for Leadership. Now I think we get to go back and really start asking the questions. I don't know if any of you guys saw the movie The Social Dilemma on Netflix, if anyone's watched that. But like if you watched it and then you said, gosh, I wish I had a team of data scientists and brilliant people who are analyzing human behavior so that I would be better tied to my consumer and that I would be giving them variable reward that would then show up in my system so that I could be in a 2-way integrated tech relationship. The answer is you're damn right you do. Because we're waking up every day and doing that, and I'm really excited about it. I think we're at the infant stage.
Oh my gosh. If you were approached by a new agent to business, like just getting started, just get their license, what's the best piece of advice you'd give them, or what's the one thing where you would advise them to devote their attention?
That's a really great question. Hang on, I got books everywhere. Here. This is a great. Has anyone read The Wealthy Gardener? If you haven't read it, it's a commitment. That said, let me get you out of reading it by just reading you the first page. Great book, by the way, but here we go. Many things are indeed more important than money, but overcoming the money problem allows us to focus on these important things. Without money and time, we yield little power over life. When faced with a problem that money can solve, and we have the money to solve it, then we face a trivial problem. But lacking this money, the smallest of life's problems can turn into the worst of life's problems. And like when I read it, I was thinking, said differently, to put it in Keller speak, we build a big business so that we can live a big life. Meaning that if we don't do the activities that we need to do such to enjoy that, then our life becomes smaller and stifled and at some point becomes absolutely untenable. And this is the concept of the smallest problems becoming the largest problems. And then I was perusing this book, $1 Million Habits. This one was written in the 70s, but listen to this. I think most new agents lack a fundamental belief. And the belief is, number one, that they deserve to have as much money as they want. Number Two, they lack the understanding on how to achieve it. But listen to what this guy thinks, right? Robert Ringer. He says, if belief cannot be willed, then how does one acquire it? Which is such a good question. The same way he achieves an understanding of the way the world works, through the attainment of knowledge and wisdom. The greater your knowledge and wisdom, the more confident you are in your beliefs. Which is so simplistic. But then listen to this. By knowledge, I'm referring to the acquisition of specific information. By wisdom, I am referring to the insight or common sense. And so then I think about that and I say, if I'm a new agent, then I'm really clear on something. I was born with all of the wisdom that I need. Everything I believe that you need to know instinctively is already there. You're not getting any more of that. What you now need is the knowledge by which to unlock the doors that's guarding that wisdom. That's why we have things like Bold. That's why we have things like Ignite. That's why we're doing Mastermind. That's why you joined Keller Williams. When we say we're an educationally based company, that's what we mean. And so I would implore everybody to look up and be willing to ask the question, what are the skills that I need to double down on because I'm a genius and a superhero? And then what are the gaps that I have that I need to fill? That's what real leadership is. It's being willing to keep somebody in their circumstance long enough for them to realize their own reality. And then having a solution by which to change that reality. And then you get a group that says, well, I'm not leading anyone, it's just me. But the path to leadership begins with self-leadership. There's this quote here. Hang on. Where's the book on the dumb? Okay, yeah, here. Why do so many incompetent men become leaders? And how to fix it. And here's what it says. This is amazing. It says that 75% of people quit their job because of their direct line manager. 75%, you guys. And then it goes on to say 65% of Americans say they would rather change their boss than get a pay raise. Well, then I look up and realize that most of us are here because we're unemployable anywhere else. And we're not only the direct line manager, but we're our own boss. And if that's true for the American populace, then it is true for us. Said differently, if you need to make a change, it's probably an inner one. All of the great sages and all of the wise people throughout history, and even all of the great religions, they all have this concept of looking within to better understand looking outside. And I don't think that there's anything insightful about being the one that says that. That said, if I was a new agent here, I'd get really clear on the fact that the only obstacles to success is probably you.
That's some serious stuff. And being an independent agent, I can say that sometimes I want to fire my boss. Definitely have a lot of work to do over here. But now I think we've touched on a lot of culture, maybe some Eastern philosophy in there too.
But by the way, if you wanted a really tactical thing, you should look up and realize that there's 3 seasons to real estate, and you're in the first one right now. And the first one is the fall cleanup. So immediately, everybody better clean up their data bank. This means getting every single person, friend, family, neighbor, relative, you name it, into a data bank. It's called a data bank because you make deposits. You'll know you make a deposit because whoever it is will like you more after making it. If people do business with people they like, then the key to getting wealthy is to have more people like you on a daily basis. So if you start the day and one person likes you more at the end of it, and you can do that for a year, you're going to be okay. If 3 new people like you at the end of it, you're going to be a capper. And if 50 new people like you at the end of it over the course of the year, you're going to be a mega agent. Anybody else who would tell you that it's more complicated than that is simply trying to sell you something. That's it. Once you get all of your people into the data bank, that naturally leads to the next season. It's called the winter of renewal. The reason the winter is the greatest gift for every realtor is because it has all these natural connectivity points. Happy New Year, happy holidays, happy Thanksgiving. And this year it'll be even more pervasive because you're going to have, Google told us, 1/3 of the American populace who will not be willing to leave their house because of COVID. I'm not making a political statement. I'm just giving you the data. That better lead for you to have an insight, which means that's 1/3 of your people too, and that better change your behavior, which is a new habit, which is a winter of renewal. Call the people you haven't spoken to, talk to them, ask them how they are, give them a 1-to-1 presidential address. Here's what the value of your home is, period. And that leads to the spring and summer explosion. Those are the only 3 seasons. The spring and summer explosion, the come list me phone calls or the come show me homes, that's a privilege that's earned by doing the right things in the fall and the winter. So when you look up in June and your customers just aren't there, it's not their fault. Their lives didn't stop. They're still having life events. Get a job, lose a job, find love, get divorced, have a kid, become an empty nester. Their merry-go-round of life continued to spin. You just decided not to be a part of it. And you decided that in the fall and the winter. And then you want to hold them accountable for it in the spring and the summer? That's why when I say, is your direct line manager not the greatest, that's kind of what I mean.
And thank you also for sharing all your points of reference with the books. I think I saw in an interview or maybe read in an article with you that you're a very avid reader. And is it true that you do it in 15-minute increments?
Yeah, I also have all these learning disabilities, which is why I'm kind of unemployable anywhere else. And I got the 1.8 GPA. So it takes me much longer to read than it will take the rest of you. So I do it two different ways. The first model I got was from Ben Kinney, which was I'll get books on tape and then I'll get a physical copy of the book. I'll turn it up to a 3x speed and I'll listen and I'll read at once. I just don't retain very well that way. I tend to read for enjoyment that way. When I'm trying to retain and get smarter, I simply have to block 15-minute increments throughout the entire day. And I'll have anywhere from 10 to 15 of them. And I don't know, I got 30 or 40 different books going on at any given time to make sure that I don't get bored from doing it. And then once a week, I have someone actually read to me because that's the best way that I retain.
Wow. Very systematic in that approach. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's only because you work with people that are so much naturally smarter. You try to hang out with Josh Team and Gary Keller for a little while, and then tell me how many books you have to read to show up.
Oh, man. Well, I just wanted to just quick mention to the group, too. I know Matt said it in the chat box, but if you have any questions for Jason, please send them in there. Selfishly, I will steal as much of this man's time as possible, so just go ahead and cut me off anytime. Jason, riffing on the previous question about the new-to-business agent. Let's say you were approached by an agent who's been in the business a few years, doing a few million in production, and they want to either take their business to the next level in 2021 or perhaps start a team. What kind of advice around that type of person?
Yeah, the first thing I guess I would do is I would try to analyze the business a little bit. I'd make a list of every transaction that I did over the last 12 months. Then I'd go through and I'd start highlighting the source of each of those transactions. So open house, pay-per-click, 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 and I would figure out what my top 3 sources of business are. So the way that I think about this is like this, right? So if you drew a circle, is that okay? And then you divided that into 3, this would be number 1, this would be number 2, and this would be number 3. Once you had your list, this would be your top 3 sources of business. So if it's like, sphere of influence, referrals, open houses, and then, I don't know, pay-per-click. These would be my top 3 sources. I would then never think or ever talk about anything other than those 3 things. I'd get really clear on this right here is my job. This is what I do for a living. If I was a sole practitioner, the question would be, how do I do this job more effectively? If I was starting a team, my focusing question would be, how do I have other people do this job at a high level? That's it. Those are the only 2 roads I would take. Then down here, I need to have a piece of technology. For me, this would be command, which I have a hard time spelling. So I'm just going to write a C. And that's where I would be putting everybody that I meet here would go in. Open houses would go in. Whatever your sources are, that feeds the data bank. Then it's the data bank's job to follow up with these people with frequency and intensity. That's it. That's all the data bank is designed to do. Bring new people into the top and then help you follow up with frequency and intensity. And then that should ultimately lead to commission income. If it's any more complicated than this, like if you're one of these folks that has like a 48-page operation manual, I'm sure that's great for something. I just don't know what it is. It's just that easy. And so then for each one of these 3 things, I only ask 3 questions in order. And here's what they are. Number 1, do I have the best model or system to get the most out of it? It's a really easy question, by the way. Here's how you know if you do. If there's no one making more money than you doing the same thing. And if you're like, well, wait a second, somebody else out there is getting more referrals than their SOI, then I would go steal their system. That's it. You need to have the best model and system. That's why we're a model and system company. Everything in life that works starts with a model and system. Get over it. It's just not changing. Then number two, piece of technology. I have the right model and system. Do I now know how to use the piece of technology most efficiently? Now, if you're a sole practitioner, just stop there. That's all you need. Right model and system, right piece of tech, then go to work. If you're starting a team, then you just need the third one, which is people. Now I got to go get a bunch of people that buy into that and that are going to do the job. And then that's it. Throw everything else out. And everything in life that works is found in simplicity, yet everything wants to naturally become more complicated. So please fight the urge.
And definitely admitting that I'm one of those people that loves to make things so much more complex than they need to be.
Me too.
Oh my goodness. So in your coaching and consulting discussions, either within KW, within your coaching business, what's the biggest area that some mega agents that you work with, where do they need to really improve their business or their focus?
I don't know. Far be it from me to ever lecture a mega agent. There's so many of them that are so much more talented than I am. And now the teams are so big. Like I ran this kind of like little rinky-dinky business. You look up now and we have agents that are doing 10, 15, $20 million in GCI. Numbers that I just never even fathom and can think about. When I joined KW, the number one guy in the company, I saw him on stage. There was like 400 of us. There's only 4,000 people in the whole company at the time. And he said, I made $500,000 in GCI in the last 12 months. And I was like, what? Like, I actually waited in line. You know that thing people do where you wait by the side of the stage? And I did that. And I was like, bro, you showed me a check stub that said you made $500,000 in GCI. I come work for you tomorrow. Like, I couldn't even fathom that number, just like out of that movie, Wolf of Wall Street. Now your teams at this company are doing that a month. Some of them are doing that in the first 2 weeks of each month. So I have no advice for our mega agents. I tend to take more advice from them. I will tell you this. Anybody who makes a lot of money has massive data bank discipline. My people are going to be in my system. I'm going to follow. The only thing we get to decide as realtors is who we follow up with, by what frequency and what intensity. That's it. Everything else is decided by the consumer. When they're going to move, how much they're going to spend, who they're going to do business with, what color shirt they're going to wear. The only thing we decide, who we're going to follow up with, by what frequency and what intensity. And our mega agents are just experts at those three things.
Question that I had the privilege of kind of asking to Josh T.
Hang on one second. What do I have it open? Oh, that group call. Can you hop on there and tell me I'm going to be 5 minutes late and just hang out? I got 5 minutes.
All right.
How long was I supposed to be here for?
I don't know. You get to pick. So can I jump in and ask a couple questions out of the chat box, because I want to make sure our questions get answered. So we've been kind of on this path of the agent who wants to grow their business, and that's a wonderful thing. And yet there's still a large population of our agents who say, you know what, I love my business right now, and I'm at a stage of my life where I want to maintain that business. I've got a great referral business. It gets me where I want to be, and it's all about quality of life. What's your advice for them?
Get really clear on the fact that referral businesses are based on likability. They're referring you because they like you. And so don't count the number of contacts you're making. That's stupid. Don't count the number of doors you knock on. That's dumb. Don't ever make another cold call again, because that would be a giant waste of time. You should be solely focusing on, how do I get more of those people to like me on a deeper level? If high school was a popularity contest, then residential real estate is definitely a popularity contest. And when someone says to me, I have a referral-based business, what that means to me is that you're the most popular realtor in their life. The question that you get to ask now is, how do I stay that way? And that should be how the prism you use and the compass for everything that you're doing. I turned 40 not long ago. I know you can't tell. And I got a note, a birthday card from my homeowner's insurance guy. And I opened it and I read it, and it said, Jason, happy birthday. We're thinking of you. Your friend and insurance agent, Ron. They're all named Ron in that. And I read it, and here's what I didn't do. I didn't go, oh my gosh, Ron, he did care. I didn't do that. Instead, I looked at it and I was like, I haven't shopped this guy in a while. Has he been raising? And I threw it out. And you know what? I didn't really feel like he was any more likable. I didn't move any closer to him because of that. And I immediately stopped sending birthday cards out to everybody who I wasn't actually in a relationship with. The truth is, a birthday card from a stranger isn't likable. That's pseudo likability, and that's offensive. And so I would urge you, look up at every single contact you're making and then ask, have I earned the right to make this contact? Is it making me more likable? And the model that I use to figure out if I've earned the right is I go back to the old trust triangle, which is draw a triangle. And then on the top of it is authentic, meaning does the person that I'm speaking to believe they're experiencing the real me? If they don't, you're out. Then I have logic. Does the person that I'm speaking to believe that I have some logic that can make their life better? If you don't, you're out. And then the last corner is empathy. Does the person I'm speaking to believe that I care about them? If they don't, you're out. If you think about every relationship in your life that's ever went bad, to the extent that you've broken it off completely, it's because one of those three things was broken to such a way that you no longer saw a path to repair it and you got out of relationship. That's why people get divorced. One of those three things. You just don't believe you're getting the real them. You think they're always lying to you. You think they're making poor decisions, or you truly don't believe they care about you. That's the essence of relationship. When you have a fight with someone in your life, it's usually because one of those three things is fractured in the moment and you believe you can still work past it to rebuild it. And I would ask you, go through your data bank right now. You really believe you have a referral-based business? Cool. You go draw a triangle next to everyone in it that you believe you've honored those three things to. And you're going to look up and realize you got less triangles than you think. That's what you should focus on over the next 12 months.
Love it.
All right, you guys.
I think we got to your end of your 5 minutes. I appreciate you staying a couple extra. Michael?
Jason, thank you. Appreciate you sharing your time.
By the way, y'all, I'd love to come back. I just want, on behalf of Gary and Josh and your entire ELT team here at KW, the power of Keller Williams has nothing to do with Austin, Texas. Zero. It has everything to do with your relationships with your customers. That's why we affirm God, family, and business in that order, which is one of the things that makes us so weird and so unique. And I just want you to know, we're going to get it right, and we're not going to hide when we get it wrong. And we're going to make everything more reliable. And I just thank you for everything y'all are doing for Keller Williams. We're really grateful.
Thanks so much, Jason.
Thanks, Jason. I always struggle going back to the regularly scheduled meeting after.